Welcome back. It is time for a look at business. I'm joined by Owen Fairclough, our business editor. Owen, we're going to begin with Credit Suisse turning its first loss since the height of the financial crisis.
Yeah, it's done fairly well in the wake of that, Melissa. Not this week, though, in fact, recording its first loss, as you say, for around 3 years, a loss of around 630 million Swiss francs for the fourth quarter. Of course, yesterday we were talking about UBS turning a loss as well in the wake of their trader scandal, their chief exec resigning. So not a great week for Swiss banks. I've picked out a few other results as well for you there up on the earnings board. Vodafone third quarter profits down just over 2% to £11 billion. That in the week that it's decided it's had enough of investing in Greece, no longer expanding there. Daimler, though, having a good earnings season. Its profits up nearly 60% or so.
Now, we've been speaking a great deal this morning about the Greek finance minister heading off to Brussels without a deal. He seems quite determined. It's difficult to see how he can. Time is really ticking.
Yeah, absolutely. The clock is ticking. Of course, no meaningful deal, and yet we've had those deadlines slipping away. Not really great to have to head off to Brussels for a meeting of finance ministers with not a great deal to show, although, of course, things are changing by the hour with those negotiations, particularly when it comes to cutting back on the Greek pension pot. The European markets don't seem to mind too much. It's been one of those catch-22 situations where earnings for this season haven't been spectacular, but they've been good enough to distract investors a little bit from all this Eurozone woe. So you can see there the European exchanges all opening up between 0.2% and 0.5%. Asian markets, again, nothing spectacular there. The Nikkei did end the day around 0.2% down. The Hang Seng and the Shanghai Composite have been a little bit all over the place today. You can see some gains and losses on both those exchanges there.
Now, plenty of company results out. GROUPONs, though, are the ones that have caught your eye.
Yeah, GROUPON, of course, was the company that floated last year that many investors compare with Facebook, a hot internet company. GROUPON trades in coupons, discount coupons, but actually made a loss. Now, the reason I've picked these out is because it's the first time that GROUPON has reported its results since it became a publicly listed company. And you can see there it made a loss of around $42 million for the fourth quarter. It's not all doom and gloom. The revenues are up spectacularly, up to around $500 million compared to around just under 200 from a year ago. But of course, it is a concern to investors that the stock really for GROUPON just doesn't seem to get off the ground, still trading at around $24. That's the price it was trading at a few months ago when it first floated.
Well, investors indeed looking at that, Owen, might well wonder, what about Facebook then?
Well, inevitably, you make the comparison to companies similar in some ways. They're both, as I say, hot properties on the internet. At least GROUPON has something to sell with those discount vouchers. It's hard to know, of course, with this Facebook flotation, what exactly Facebook is going to make money from. Yes, they make a lot of money from advertising. That's really all they've got right now. So the comparison perhaps with GROUPON isn't completely wide of the mark.
We're going to stay with that Facebook story for a moment because it is facing a new challenger. An Australian student is leading a campaign aimed at forcing the social network to come clean on its data collection practices. It's caught the attention of European lawmakers at a crucial moment for Facebook. As it prepares to float, it's discovering that user privacy and advertising demands don't sit easily with one another.
He's become the European champion of data protection regulations, and he's taking on Facebook. Max Schrems accuses the company of holding users' personal information even after they've deleted it. The founder of the website Europe versus Facebook has filed 22 complaints against the company. His website has persuaded over 40,000 Facebook users to contact the company's European headquarters, demanding a summary of their personal data. In a sign of Schrems' growing influence, 2 top executives from the company's California headquarters traveled to Vienna earlier this week to meet with the law student.
We'll get a report about the data Facebook is saving. The current problem is that nobody knows what files they are keeping. Yesterday, they promised we will have the right to see a list of data entries Facebook keeps even when you erase your information.
Facebook says its data practices follow European law and that users can easily obtain a copy of their information through their personal settings. Meanwhile, European lawmakers have used Schrems' complaints as an example of why the EU needs new protection laws. The European Justice Commissioner has put forward a plan to give EU residents the right to opt out more easily from data collection practices used by companies like Facebook. For now, the 24-year-old European activist is up against a mighty opponent as the social media giant prepares a $5 billion initial public offering.
Okay, let's pick up on a little bit more of the day's company news for you now. News Corp has admitted the total cost of the UK phone hacking scandal is unpredictable and will hit future profits. The US media group beat forecast to report a 65% increase in fourth quarter profits of more than $1 billion. But it announced it incurred $104 million in charges relating to the scandal that led to the closure of the News of the World tabloid.
Europe's safety regulator has ordered all Airbus A380s to be inspected over cracks in their wings. Officials extended the checks across 7 airlines operating the super jumbo. Australian carrier Qantas had first identified a series of tiny cracks while repairing the plane at the centre of a mid-air engine blowout last year.
And more than a dozen traders and brokers have been sacked or suspended in a widening inquiry into the illegal manipulation of interbank lending rates. That's according to the Financial Times. Staff from banks that include Deutsche, JP Morgan and Citigroup have been caught up in the investigation in London and across Asia. It's alleged they colluded to set interest rates on trillions of dollars of international securities.
If you're watching us while snowed in, we're glad to have you with us and hope you're keeping warm. Not easy here in Europe for the time being. Much of the continent, of course, suffering one of the coldest Februaries on record. That's obviously been having an effect on electricity consumption and power indexes to pushing power indexes to unprecedented highs. Kate Moody has more.
As the temperatures drop across Europe, electric counters have soared. In France, demand for electricity climbed to a new high on Wednesday, and prices on the main European index soared more than 300%. Over the last month alone, the price of electricity spiked to over €600 per megawatt hour. France was forced to import electricity from the UK and Germany to deal with the record-breaking demand.
In France in particular, heating is mainly electric, so the link of electricity consumption to temperature is very strong.
At least demand in France has been met. Other countries haven't been so fortunate. Power grids have been pushed to their limits in southeastern Europe. In Bosnia, some 15,000 customers were left in the cold and the dark, while in neighboring Serbia, officials called on the public to dial back its consumption in order to prevent a collapse. But the price of staying warm took on new meaning in Hungary, where the government handed out bricks made of damaged and shredded currency to be used as fuel.
Which brings us to the end of today's look at business. Owen Fairclough, thanks very much indeed. In just a couple of minutes, my colleague Stuart Norval will be back with all the rest of the day's news. Do stay with us.